Just recently, I started doing our new powerlifting program, which is in our app, the Hybrid Strength Coach app.
What's it like being married to the most famous female powerlifter of all time?
Just recently, she had one with Greg Duchette. He basically intentionally, like what he does, he intentionally misinterpreted what she was saying, but then we just had fun with it. We got back into the studio at Hybrid. Most people get pissed off and say a bunch of crazy shit, but she kept it respectful. She threw some jabs in there, obviously, because, that's the game.
Why did you expand to making an app? Because your online programs and templates and everything that you guys were doing was doing so well. What was the process of making a hybrid app?
Powerlifting actually gets a bad rap for, someone will say powerlifting's easy because you only do squat, bench, and deadlift. But I actually think the simplicity of the sport makes it more difficult.
What you doing out here at the Arnold?
Just shaking hands, kissing babies. Yeah. Everybody who's ever seen me lift sees the grinders that I put myself through.
They're epic because you're like, damn, that was an awesome single, and then he's going again.
It's like, he went up 30
damn,
pounds.
he went, but no, like he went for a double. It's like, hold on, he's going for a triple. It's like, holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
Powerproject family, how's it going? Now, a lot of you guys are lifters, athletes, you're serious about the gym, and we are too. And that's why we've been using Slingshot products for years, all right? You have the original Slingshot, obviously the glittery pink hip circle, which is my personal favorite. But if you don't like that, then you have the normal hip circle that's used to warm up the hips. But on the website, they have tons of equipment, knee sleeves, elbow sleeves, the gangster wraps right there. So you need to go check them out. And Andrew, can you tell them more about it?
Yes, that's over at markbellslingshot.com, and at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject10 to save 10% off your entire order. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
It's been a while, Hybrid. Hayden and Bowe.
Hayden and Bowe.
I know. I was thinking, when was the last time we saw you?
It's been a long time.
Maybe at the would it have been as far back as the Meathead Millionaire Summit?
I think so. Well, the world went dark after that.
Yeah, wow.
Something bad happened.
Was that after like the seminar thingy that we did at ST?
Yep, that would have been after.
Okay, damn. So it's been a while then, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, crazy.
I think back then, I don't think Steph was even boxing yet.
Wow, is that right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Her powerlifting career feels like another lifetime to me now. It's wild. But it's been super cool to be there for the whole boxing journey too.
What's going on with your training?
It's been so hit or miss because I was training for the Hybrid Showdown because I want to do our own meet, and there's nothing better than controlling all the factors you can within your own facility.
Get your lifts passed even when they're not good, and you don't have to lock anything out. You don't have to squat below parallel. That's perfect.
I'll just fire people if they get reds.
There you go.
I did that for years.
You get 2 reds, look at the judge.
Yeah, so I was training for that, and then Stefi had a fight in Dubai, and the whole team went there. And when I was trying to come back from Dubai to Miami, I didn't realize that the layover I had taken on the way there was it was through the UK, and that was a country that if you went there, it restricted Canadians from re-entering the US for 14 days. Whoa. So, and that's just because of the...
I always forget that you're an evil Canadian.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to keep my distance.
But I'm...
They're like the nicest people, though.
I know, I'm totally kidding.
Okay, I'm just saying.
So, it's because I guess any land border that you don't need a passport to cross, like there's a bunch of them in Europe, obviously, they considered it more risky for spreading COVID. So anyways, I had to stay out of the country for the remainder of the 14 days. I think I had like 6 left or something. And my only options were like Turkey, a couple other random spots I wasn't really interested in, or I could go home to Canada. So I didn't like tell my parents I was coming or anything. I just took a flight, went straight there. And showed up on their doorstep at like midnight. And I hadn't seen my parents because of all the COVID stuff for like 2 years.
And you're like, I'm moving here. They're like, the fuck you are.
Well, they didn't know that yet. So, it was really nice. I saw them, had a trip. I stayed for the remainder of like the 6 days or whatever I had. And then when I was heading back to the airport, I'm checking for my passport and I can't find it anywhere. So I turned the place upside down. My parents did like 5 times, checked all the vehicles. I tracked down the cab driver that took me from the airport. He checked his car, went to the lost and found at the airport, like retraced the whole way I walked, couldn't find it. So that began the process of getting not just my passport back, which isn't very hard. You can just go on, you can just book a flight and then say, oh, I have a flight in 2 days. I need it rush, and they'll do it. But the visa took 5 months to get an appointment.
So you were away from your wife for 5 months?
I was away from everybody, business, everything. And I applied for the expedited processing, and they told me, sorry, you don't qualify. I'm like, well, who does qualify at this point? Because like my whole life is in Miami, and that's not enough to get me back home. Yeah. So that was a long way of saying I was prepping for the meet, wasn't able to go back because of all those shenanigans. And then I was just kind of like, maybe I'll just try to not beat myself up for a little while. So I took training like a little bit lighter. And then just recently, I started doing our new powerlifting program, which is in our app, the Hybrid Strength Coach app, which is a project we've been working on for the last 2 years or so. And I've been loving that.
I don't know what it's like. My wife is really not on social. Like, she's kind of on social media. She's more of a voyeur than anything. She doesn't post anything. She doesn't know how to do a selfie. What's it like being married to the most famous female powerlifter of all time, and somebody that has such a huge following on Instagram?
Yeah,
and just social media in general.
I mean, it's always been interesting. I think the only times it ever affected me was when something affected her. So, she comes across really tough. You guys all know her well. She's thick-skinned. But in the beginning, when she was first getting a lot of attention, you know how it works with women in the fitness industry. There's some good, some perverted, and some that are just rude. Those comments would get to her a lot, and there was times where that she'd cry. It really would bother her. Some of the things people would say. Because people are ruthless, like
people are fucked up.
They are like
they'll say something completely unrelated to what you're trying to convey too, and that can be really hurtful. You're just trying to. She might post a video about her doing a deadlift, and somebody might say you look like a man or some bullshit like that, right?
Yeah, or they, she does a lot of informational content, and people will intentionally misinterpret things she's saying to make a clickbaity post. One that was kind of recent is. This one didn't upset her. She now is like tough at this point, obviously, but
she's kind of over the hump, right? She's over the other side a little bit, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, to go back to your point, it affected me in that I would get pissed off and I'd be in the comments battling all these people and her following just got too big that I was like, oh, God, I can't do this. This is going to be a full-time job if I'm just going to be defending every negative comment. But just recently she had one with Greg Duchette.
Oh, okay.
And he basically intentionally, like what he does, he intentionally misinterpreted what she was saying, made a whole video kind of like dissecting it, but then we just had fun with it. We were like, okay, well, clock's ticking while like this video is still relevant, and we got back into the studio at Hybrid and have her do like just pump out a rebuttal to it that was really, really good. And most people get pissed off and say a bunch of crazy shit, but she kept it respectful. She threw some jabs in there, obviously, because that's the game. But it was like really well done, and she does more of that kind of stuff now. So it's turned into from something that was just like really negative to something that she can now use that's like helpful. Now she's making content out of it and stuff. So that's pretty cool.
Well, and twisting her words around and using them against her, she is a doctor, right?
A doctor of physical therapy.
Right? Mm-hmm. And so that probably pissed her off pretty good. She probably like, fuck that.
Yeah, because it was about a topic she's super familiar
really
with,
well.
So yeah, definitely. But I don't think it. I mean, it obviously was annoying, but it's also his shtick, right? Like it's kind of like if Weird Al rips your song, you can't get mad at him. It's kind of like oh, cool, I'm getting recognized, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Kind of, yeah, yeah. Because he made stuff about like our podcast, but then like we couldn't wait to have him on. It's just kind of like it's cool that she was able to. I don't want to say negative, but she turned a negative into a positive really fast. Yeah. Most people just kind of go crawl in a corner and hide. So I think just the years of kind of building that skin has really helped.
Sure, and I think just in general, it's if you look at it like, as the pie grows, everybody's piece grows. It's like it doesn't really matter what people are saying if it's bringing eyeballs to you, and then you can control the narrative or say whatever it is that you want to say. Then it's always just beneficial to you. So.
It's been amazing for me. The first time I met you guys, and I think maybe the first time I hosted you guys at my gym, I don't think you had your gym yet. I don't think you had your gym. I think the hybrid training was like brand new. I think you guys were just getting into it, and you were really quiet and reserved, and we had you on the show and you could barely talk. And I just remember like Stefi was like, oh, well, he does the programming and he's kind of behind all this. And I was just thinking, this is really cool. And it was at a time before there was so many online coaches and so many like now hybrid is known and recognized as a premier brand in that space. So it's been really cool for me to watch the growth that you guys had and to see the growth of your gym and all the different things you guys are doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, it's been definitely a wild ride, and I don't know that I could attribute it to any one thing, but the landscape now, like you said, there's so many more people offering similar things. I think it's really hard nowadays. Timing was really in our favor back then too. You know, we obviously had great influences. We were able to be around you a lot. We were able to be around a lot of people we respected, and you know, made a big effort to always be in front of as many people's eyeballs and cameras as possible. And I think that helped. But now it's like social media is, you know, TikTok is growing, and if you're on TikTok like you are, you know, that's a place where you can grow a following fast. But it's hard now. You know, if you're starting a business now and you don't have a following already, it's like it's tough. When people ask me for advice, I'm like, on that side of things, I'm like, I don't know, start 20 years ago.
And you also had a 22-time world champion record holder or broken record holder.
Yeah, right? That helps a lot for sure. But what I always thought was really interesting was that the growth of the program was, you know, it was always on an upward trajectory, but it was doing that before Steffi even broke a world record, which was kind of cool because it meant people were enjoying the content that we were putting out, you know, and for her speaking about things, I think what got her the most recognition was a combination of all of those things. She was a great power lifter, but there's a lot of great power lifters out there that you're going to top out at like 100,000 followers if you're just a power lifter, you know? For her, she had the educational background. She's like, I don't know, she does everything. She's
jacked.
She was aesthetic. She had the background. She could lift well. You know, she is opinionated, so she says a lot of stuff that gets people going. You know, she's into fashion. She does all these things that are, you know, I think that add to it. So I think that was actually something that she got unfairly sort of like labeled as, oh, she gets all this attention because she's attractive and she's good at powerlifting. It's like nobody cares about these other girls because they just don't look like her. And it's like that it couldn't be farther from the truth because she's got all those other things that I just mentioned. And that's the real thing. It's like, how many times can you put out, this is me squatting, this is me benching, this is me deadlifting, before people are like, okay, we get it. You know, your max has been your max for the last 5 years. It's like, I could just go watch any one of your videos and know what your entire page is. So it's, I think the approach that she took, and that anyone I would say should take, is to just have more diversity than just being the person that squats or whatever.
When it comes to the app that you said you guys just developed, you said you guys have been developing it for 2 years. It's probably just not a normal app. Like, why did you expand to making an app? Because your online programs and templates and everything that you guys were doing was doing so well. What was the process of making a hybrid app?
It's always, for starters, way more complex than you think. We had initially built a web app. That was back when, you know, the first times we were coming around the gym. It was something that we thought at the time, because we weren't experienced in software development, that you could just build it and then it exists, and you just, once you've paid for it, it's done, and it runs forever, right? That's how we kind of thought of it. But very quickly did that become outdated, and people were offering services that were competitive and had better features and all this stuff. So
like AIs and algorithms, literally like chat,
and just
like that.
Better functionality. I think a lot of people get caught up trying to make things overly complex because they think that's what people want, but really what people want is to be able to receive their things in a way that's efficient. They want things to work. They don't want it to be buggy. And we focused on all that. It took 2 years. We hired an entire team of software developers. They all, we have 2 facilities in Miami. One is the gym and one is our HQ. So all of the software developers work out of our headquarters there. Wow. So all they're doing full time is working on the app, thinking about the app, you know, seeing what people are asking for, seeing what features we should add, you know, all that stuff. And it also was really just a matter of us trying to look at like everything that we were doing under the hybrid umbrella and looking at the things that how we were spending our time and resources and what that was returning for us, you know. And we realized really quickly things like, okay, we're spending 50% of our time on apparel, but apparel makes 10% of our revenue, you know. So it's like, why is our media team getting backlogged doing all this stuff when we could be pushing them to training that's making 80% of it, you know? So it became clear to us that, you know, while we still do all those other things and like doing them, the main focus is the training business, and that's where we put everything in. That's why we built the app, and now I think our app is the highest rated app like in its class on the App Store. Wow. It's got the most amount of reviews as well. So
direction is a really hard thing to kind of point people in as like a leader and like a visionary. You're just like, hey, let's fucking go this way. And you're just like, you see the mountain over there? Like, that's where we're going. Like, we're going over. But you have to be like super specific when it comes to getting to any destination. You know, if you're off by just a little tick and you're in something for the long run, you're going to be way the fuck off. I mean, you're going to end up in Florida instead of ending up in New York. You know, so it's a tough thing. And then even with a name like Hybrid, I remember when you guys were starting versus the way that things are right now, like you guys really struck with a great name, a great term, to have a hybrid athlete, because when you started, that wasn't cool. It was you were a powerlifter, you were a bodybuilder, you were a CrossFitter, or you were a weightlifter. You weren't messing around with all of them, except for you and Steph were messing with all of them, because she's flexible and mobile and strong in a lot of different positions, and so are you with your cleans and snatches and stuff like that. So how did you guys, like, is that a trend that you kind of picked up on early, or is that was just your own interest, probably your own self-interest, right?
Yeah, it was mostly. I had actually switched to powerlifting originally because I was getting injured in weightlifting. I was able to clean and clean and jerk a really high percentage of my max squat. Like I could clean and jerk 185 kilos, and I could only front squat like 190 kilos. So it's like every time I'm doing clean and jerk, which is every single day, I'm just beating the crap out of myself because I'm essentially forcing myself to do max front squats all the time. So I started getting knee issues from that, and I was like, you know, maybe I'll just step back from that for a little bit and just focus on getting stronger. And I did. I put like 100 kilos on my squat in, you know, like a 1.5 year period, just running small up junior.
100 what? 100 kilos?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Just running, you know, because I had never focused on it before either. So like it was something, it was novel. It was
Just high frequency squatting basically?
Yeah, it was basically small up junior on repeat for like a 1.5 years.
And that's squatting 3 times a week or something like that?
Four.
Okay.
Yeah, and fairly high volume. So I was sore all the time, but I wasn't in pain the same way that I was in pain when I was weightlifting. And then once I had that strength surplus, I went back to weightlifting after not doing it at all, and was like, you know, hitting PRs, and everything felt good, and I had no more knee issues and all that stuff. So I kind of realized that the way
Try to keep the mic a little closer to you.
Sorry, I kind of realized that the way that we train in weightlifting in North America is a little bit backwards, because if you look at Russia or China or any of these countries, you know, sure, they have help with PEDs and stuff like that some North American lifters don't, but they have these huge strength surpluses. Guys who are 75 kilos are squatting 300 kilos, you know, and so they're able to clean and jerk to 105 kilos and do it a lot, you know, where that's not really the case. Here, we have way less of an emphasis on the strength part of weightlifting, even though it is a strength sport. You know, I think that the way it should be thought of, and the way that Stefi and I realized that, you know, what we thought made the most sense, was that you treat the strength portions of Olympic weightlifting the same way a football player would, right? The skill of football, you learn on the field practicing those skills, right? You don't like throw a bunch of weights all over your body and play football to get stronger, right? So for weightlifting, we thought the same thing. Let's try to push this way of using it as the accessory strength for strength, and then you get better at clean and jerk and snatch by doing clean and jerk and snatch. So instead of battling it out to try to get 1 kilo PR in snatch by snatching every day, you can put 50 kilos on your squat and get a 10 kilo PR in your snatch. So we were both, I started doing both Olympic weightlifting and powerlifting, kind of this hybrid approach sort of thing. And I was doing a powerlifting block, and Stefi was in school. And weightlifting is so mentally taxing as a sport. Like, it's a game of timing and speed and precision and all these things where, in powerlifting, it's not easy by any means, but it's a sport where if you feel like shit, you can still go up and down, So, she was like, all right, I don't really want to worry about weightlifting. School's tough. I'm up all night, studying. I'm like, why don't you do a powerlifting block with me? First time we go in the gym, she pulls 315 pounds in sumo deadlift. I'm trying to teach her, my mechanics are all not good in sumo. I just don't have a good body for it and whatever. So she does it. I'm like, that looks better than how I do it. It's the first time she's ever tried it. So it was really clear she had an aptitude for it. And then she enjoyed training that way. She was doing Olympic weightlifting less. So she was doing it once or twice a week, but powerlifting all the time. And then people were just asking us about it, to get back to your point or your question. People were asking us about it all the time. How do you do Olympic weightlifting and powerlifting at the same time? So we were doing competitions in both. And we did a super total meet, and it was actually kind of cool. It was at a local gym called CrossFit Seoul, and we had both won the super total competition. And there's both powerlifters and weightlifters in it. So it was kind of like a cool little proof of concept for us.
What does super total mean? What movements are in the competition?
It's basically you do a full weightlifting meet and then you do a full powerlifting meet. So it is absolutely brutal. And they were still using Wilks predominantly at the time. So they took your Wilks and they added it with weightlifting's equivalent, which is Sinclair. And whoever had the highest number at the end won. And we both won. So that was really cool. And we just got asked about it a lot. And at a certain point, we're like, everyone wants to know, how we're doing this. Why don't we just show them and charge them for it? And that's how it started. It was super organic. It was just what we were doing, and we built from there.
There's so few people that actually will compete in powerlifting. There's so few people that actually compete in Olympic lifting, and even the people that do compete in those sports, I think there's a lot of Olympic lifters that would love to have a good bench press, and there's a lot of power lifters that would love to have some good overhead pressing power.
Yeah.
And so you kind of see these hybrids all over the place all the time. It's just that no one was really thinking about it, I think, quite the way you guys were.
Yeah, and we were also challenging some of the norms around specifically the weightlifting community. For some reason, everyone had it in their head that if you bench press, it's going to mess up your snatch and your jerk. You do a few reps of bench press and you're not going to be able to put your hands over your head anymore. That's literally how it's thought of in the weightlifting community. But if you go back again to those Eastern countries or Asian countries, they're doing bench press. My weightlifting coach, when I started out, he would show me videos of him benching over 200 kilos, 440
Klokov,
pounds.
507 bench.
Yeah.
Smash it.
Exactly. So it's I don't know why it got twisted over here. Obviously if you're specializing in bench press and you don't do any snatch and clean and jerk, you're going to run into some mobility issues. But nobody's ever recommended doing that to get better at snatch and clean and jerk. So it's sort of a straw man argument that people put up for it. And so it was a bit of that, kind of making people think a little bit about the way that we just took training in that sport for granted. And both of our roots were in Olympic weightlifting at the time. And it just grew from there. We built that software that I was telling you about, the original one. And we tried to get we wanted 10 to 15 beta testers to test out that app, that web app, and give us feedback. And we offered it for really cheap. And then we got 400 people applying for it. So we're like, oh, there really is something here, And then it just grew. We had 400, 1,000, and it just kept growing from there.
Yeah. Is there a nutrition aspect to that?
Yeah, there is. We have one-on-one nutrition coaching. It's hybrid nutrition. Our training director is Francesco Catalano. He's awesome. He's in charge of all the continuing education on that side. Chesco, maybe the only guy who deadlifts slower than me. But he's great. We have a team of coaches, so if you sign up on that, We're actually in the process of trying to decide where we want to take that part of the business. The service itself is great, but it is on a web-based app. So we're thinking of what the next step is there. Probably do something similar to what we've done with the training side.
I know it's.
I was just going to say just a quick comment. Like I remember the first time I met you guys, it was probably the time that that Mark was just mentioning. But like I remember we just spent like a day doing photos, and then like you guys brought your own camera, and like I was teaching you guys how to use it. That was a fun time, but like it was crazy to see you guys then, and then you have your own media team, and then you have all like just you guys exploded since then. So it's been cool to see that progress as well. But what was it like scaling and having a team all of a sudden? Because I didn't know if you had a team back then, but it just seems like you didn't have as much as you guys do now, at least.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. There's a lot of growing pains. We started off, just basically a couple of kids running this program and trying to figure it out on the way. And we hired a lot of people just based off of friendships and proximity and people who were convenient. Mm-hmm. And the bigger we got, the more we needed to hire talent over, just convenience. So there was definitely some growing pains there. We had basically turned over almost our whole staff because of it, but we were in a position where we could afford to go out and hire really good people, like our CMO is Candace Hoodsmith. I don't know if you know her, but she's been in the industry for a long time.
Yeah, she was with bodybuilding.com, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And
I've known her for a long time.
Yep, she was with bodybuilding.com, and then she was with OPEX.
Yeah, that's where I remember her from.
Yeah, and now she's with us. And
that's incredible that you have her. She's awesome. Yeah, she's very business.
She's our team mom. I say
yeah.
When I hired
That's
her,
great.
I hired my own boss. So she makes everybody's life so easy.
What's great is she's in it, right? Like, cause she's probably in there lifting with you guys from time to time too.
Yeah, she's awesome, and she's good at lifting and CrossFit, and she's kind of like, she really likes to be involved and on the same like wavelength in all ways. So she took up boxing when Stefi took up boxing too. She's been doing that too. A lot of her videos on Instagram, you'll see her doing that now.
I bet years ago you wouldn't have thought that you would be able to hire somebody like that, because I'd imagine that she's not inexpensive. She's very experienced and knows what she's doing.
Yeah, no, it didn't even occur to me that was an option to do when we started. I mean, so cool. Stefi and I did everything.
But looking back at it, you would probably, even if the money was a little bit of a leap, viewing it the way that you're able to see it now, you probably would have made the leap to pay somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I would tell anyone, as soon as you can do those things, investing in the people.
Sometimes you got to do it yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And we did for a long time.
Right.
I would sign off it was just me and Stefi. I'd sign off the hybrid team, at the end. Some team hybrid, but it was just me, I was the guy running the apparel while Stefi was in school to the post office and shipping it out and like doing the customer service, and Stefi made all the content, filmed it herself and all that stuff. So yeah, it's been really cool, and it's been cool to see. I mean, I think the product we put out and the marketing we put out just speaks for itself and what a difference it makes to invest in talented people.
How about you mentioned that you hired some people that were convenient, some people that were friends. Mm-hmm. If somebody's trying to start something and they don't have the money to hire somebody like you just mentioned, would you suggest that they hire those type people that they know? Like, what are the things that you need to look for if you don't necessarily have the funds, but you need some people for the job?
It's tough. I love what Jocko says in extreme ownership. Like, it's always your fault, right? If you're going to take ownership of the situation and you hire somebody and they don't work out, like you messed up in some way, right? You either hired the wrong person, or you didn't set expectations correctly, or you made yourself too available, or whatever it is. And I think that was part of our growing pains, was we made ourselves extremely accessible. Someone could walk into my office and be like, "Hey, I'd like a raise," and now I'm in a meeting, And at a certain point, we had too many people who just had full access and were totally comfortable just making demands and treating us like any friend treats somebody. If I'm your friend and I've got a problem, I'm going to come say it to you straight up. But sometimes that's not the best way to run a business. So I think go back to your question, I think setting expectations right away. We also, at the beginning, we did lots of things on handshake agreements. We're like, never doing that again. Learned the hard way there. you know, and just being tough. Like, I think it's like if somebody wants to work for you, then they have to understand that if you're talking about business, you're their boss first, you know, and you have to. I for a long time really didn't like any sort of like workplace confrontation. So, you know, I let things slide that I shouldn't because I didn't want to be tough with my friends or, you know, whatever, people who are going to be around all the time. And, you know, we learned from that. So
you'd have to be really clear up front, I think would be the key factor, and just say, hey, this is, you know, a 1 to 3 year thing. Maybe I'll transition into hiring, but understand you could be replaced because you're not professional in this field. Like, do you agree? You know, you can ask your friend, like, do you agree? And they're like, yeah, I'm just some schlep who's looking to gain some extra dough, you know?
Well, and some people are great and they grow with the business.
Yes.
and they learn the skills, right? Like there are some people who are, like, for example, our training director, his name's Simon Chang, really great lifter. You know, I think before he was with us, he was an accountant, and now, like, he didn't know anything to do with the job, really. We initially hired him as a nutrition coach, and then he was just one of those people that always wanted to do more and learn more and all that stuff. And then when we launched the app, with our first software development experience, we realized we were kind of just like at the mercy of whoever wrote the software, right? Because at any point, it was our whole business. They could have just been like, well, now it costs double. Luckily, they never did that, right? or you know, they had full control and access. They're basically gatekeepers, right? Yeah. So Simon taught himself how to code, and now is the kind of one of the bridges between those software developers and the programming that you actually see come out on the app. We have another guy who did that as well. He's by education is a chiropractor. His name is Ian Kaplan, and now he's the strongest software developer on our team. Better than the guys who are like the actual software developers. Mm-hmm. I hope they don't get mad at me if they hear me say that, but that's what they say. They say that he is like leaps and bounds above. He's just like a Rain Man type brain.
Powerproject family, how's it going? Now, I want to talk to you guys about Within You hydration specifically. They have This Is the Way, which is an amazing protein that tastes really good. There's a fasting gum, but the hydration is very interesting because there's no other electrolyte supplement like it out on the market. It has 60 milligrams of magnesium, 320 potassium, 1,000 milligrams of sodium, but it also has 500 milligrams of aminos, essential amino acids, and then 2 milligrams of zinc. 2 amazing flavors, blueberry lemon and a salted caramel. That's you, Andrew.
That is me.
So, guys, you know how important electrolytes are? They help you perform better. You don't get cramps during workouts. And, I mean, with the diets, you need good electrolytes. So, Andrew, how can they check it out?
Yes, that's over at markbellslingshot.com. And at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject10 to save 10% off your entire order. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes. When you made the transition from like friends and people in your circle to professionals, did you lose friends?
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a risk that you're going to have to take if you're going to hire friends too. I think you need to be aware of that, because everybody can say that they're going to be professional and they're going to not let business affect friendship, but I mean, it does. It just
part of the game, right?
Yeah, it does. So I think, you know, that's something you should be conscious of, that's a risk you're taking anytime you bring somebody into a business. You know, a lot of times if the business relationship ends, so does the friendship, and you can still be cordial and stuff, obviously. But, you know, people don't like to get fired. That's like on the list of traumatic things. It's like death of a loved one, getting fired, you know? So being the person that carries out that act on someone has a lot of weight.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, so like scaling with this many people, I believe it's kind of impossible to have like a personal training like service, but is like apps and web apps kind of like the only way you see people moving forward are going to be able to like care for so many athletes?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also a matter of what your goal is, right? You can have a really high touch service where you're dealing one-on-one with people and you're charging a lot of money for that, you know, but we just took the opposite approach where we wanted to not charge very much. Our service is only $40 a month and you get access to all these things. We try to really over-deliver on it. And for something like that, you know, we have thousands of people. I think there's 20-something thousand people on the app, and they, you know, there's no way we could service them. Right. We can't hire, like, what can someone deal with 20 people at a time? Like, we're not going to hire all the coaches to each coach 20 people individually, but we do a really good job, I think, of providing as close to a one-on-one coaching experience as you can. Like, we have, when you open up your app to your workout for the day, if it's the powerlifting, each different program has a different coach. So if it's the powerlifting program, you open it up, it's Stefi. She's explaining why, like the video of her telling you why you're doing what you're doing, giving you a few tips on all the different exercises, talking about what the intention of this part of the training cycle is. We have a Discord community, so if you need coaching beyond that, you click through the app, it takes you to Discord, and all of our coaches are in there. So we have 20 group Discord moderators that just, all they do all day is go through there. We have doc moderators, so if you get injured, you have qualified professionals assess, like the chiros, PTs, helping you through that. And then we have specialty coaches for each program that are answering. Actually, I'm leaving from this podcast to go watch one of them who's competing at the Arnold in weightlifting right after this.
What's overhead look like on a business like this? Like, do you have a lot of overhead, or is it like is it only after like the money's produced that there's like overhead, because then you have to pay back some of the coaches?
No, I mean, the software development team is our biggest expense for sure. And that's something that I would caution anyone going into the business of software development. I mean, I think almost every business now is in some way a tech business. So it's really hard to avoid being involved in some way. You're either going to pay someone outside to do it for you, or you're going to bring it in-house. We brought it in-house because we wanted control. But it's a really long process, and it's not just something that you build and leave. The full-time job for a number of people sitting there just working on this thing all day, making sure it just runs properly, making sure, like, changing all the features, like making it dynamic.
Every click on the entire thing has to work all the time.
Yeah, and it's a really big project. It's not like, I don't know, or it is in some ways like building a house, right? There's a lot of maintenance fees that come along with that. So, if you think you're just going to build your house and then sit there and never spend another penny on it for the rest of your life, you're dreaming. And it's the same way with software development. But then outside of that, I mean, we have overhead in other areas, but it's more by choice. Like, we have the facility that HQ that we have has our podcast studio, has our YouTube studio, has our warehouse and print shop, has, like I said, software development team. We have like a little like lounge. We have a little swing that sits up on top of the from the ceiling that, like, you can sit in, like a big couch thing. We try to make it like, it's got a kitchen, it's got everything. We just try to make it like a place where people want to work, so it's kind of like a little fitness Google-esque environment. That's cool. Stefi and I have offices there, and then the gym is obviously overhead as well. Yeah,
I was going to say, with the cleaning people next door, we got to make sure we're close to the mic, so that way I can edit it later. So thank you.
I was wondering too, in terms of the company culture, do you guys put an do you care if the people that work with you are people that also care about fitness, or do they just need to be good for the job?
I think in some positions it matters, and some not so much. But I think in general, people having an interest in it in some capacity is important, because you want people to enjoy what they're doing. If you're not in some way passionate about fitness, then you're like, are you going to care to sit there and build this app that's helping people with their fitness? Is it fulfilling for you? Is it something that you're going to be interested in doing long term? If you're hiring people that aren't interested in fitness, we generally try not to, just because I think you're going to have a higher rate of turnover with people trying to do something that's software development related. If you're talking about the software team or the dev team, if they really love food, maybe they're going to go work for a company like Uber Eats or something, something that they find more interesting or fulfilling.
Yeah. With all the success that you guys have had already, what's pushing you to get even more people on the app and just kind of keep pushing forward?
Continuing to grow just allows us to do more projects that we're interested in. I know, like for Stefi, for example, she's writing a program now called the Hybrid Athlete Program. That's going to be geared towards traditional sports athletes and combat athletes, since that's something that she's into now. So it just allows us to branch out and do more things like that. She's into fashion, so she wants to do more on the apparel side with that in the future. And just the more revenue we make, the more things we can kind of throw our hat in the ring in and try, in a smart way. Like I said, we learned before to focus on the thing that makes us the most. But it's money is opportunity. And that's kind of what we're after more than anything.
Does her doing boxing, does that are you interested in doing other things too athletically? Because you did Olympic weightlifting, you did powerlifting. Are you going to try anything too?
I don't think so. I think I'm going to stick to when I finished my powerlifting career, I always said I'd do it till I'm 30 and I'm 29. So I'm getting close. So I'll have to make that decision soon, whether I'm going to stay true to my word on that or not. But, for Stefi, I think it's a bit different because she literally just conquers anything that she does. So it's she played soccer and she was on the national team. She's like, okay, I went to the highest level in that. And she did weightlifting, same sort of deal. Powerlifting, breaks 25 world records, now she's in boxing. So for her, she's often moving to the next thing because she needs a next thing. It gets repetitive for her to go into a powerlifting competition and break her own records every single meet, For me, I haven't done that in powerlifting. I'm still pursuing getting stronger and being the best powerlifter that I can be for myself, and I'm not somebody who's going to break world records, but I think that that's something that makes my journey relatable as well to people. You can be strong, you can continue to make progress. And I think a lot of times in powerlifting, it's discouraging because it's if you don't break a world record, no one gives a shit, right? You'll see some guy, if the world record's 900 pounds and someone does 899, they're like, bum, But I like to sort of change the narrative as much as I can. There's a lot of amazing people out there lifting a ton of weight. And if you look down that open powerlifting list, and there's 50,000 people on that list, if you're even in the top 10,000, you're a strong motherfucker. I bet you just don't get credit for it the same way that you do in basketball or these other sports where there is not really world records the same way, right? In team sports, people can be good at different things and you can get recognition, and there's many teams and people have favorites based on personality and stuff, and powerlifting lacks that a bit. So
in other sports, it's kind of easy to see that something is similar. Someone does a layup, another person does a layup, they both scored 2 points, and okay, maybe one guy jumped better or made it look fancier, made it look nicer, but they both did a layup. And when it comes to lifting, we don't really think about it in those terms, but the guy or girl that lifts 315 is getting a very, and that's near a maximum for them. They're getting a very same neurological stimulus through their whole body as someone that deadlifts 800 pounds the max.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that powerlifting actually gets a bad rap for, someone will say powerlifting's easy because you only do squat, bench, and deadlift. But I actually think the simplicity of the sport makes it more difficult because it's equally easy for everyone who participates, right? Everyone is only squat, benching, and deadlifting. It's not like you get the special easy lift and everyone else has to do the hard one, right? There's only one thing that's being tested, and that's strength. You can't rely on some of the things you do in traditional sports. If you play hockey and you're a bad stick handler, well, maybe you're really fast and you have a good shot, and that's just not the same in powerlifting. I think you have to really become this master of the mundane and of these little different things, sleep and nutrition and all these things to get more out of it. And I guess that's kind of my goal to show is that you can still do that if you're not a world record holder.
Yeah. What about writing a book?
I honestly have thought about doing that, but man, it's a big job. Yeah, it's a big job. Maybe in the future when I have a little bit more time, when I can step away and not feel irresponsible in doing so.
You just have a lot of good stuff in that brain. I think it would be really cool to see it out in writing. What was that experience like for Stefi? Because didn't she write?
Oh yeah, she did. I think it was really good. She co-wrote that with Ian Kaplan, the guy that I was just telling you about, who is the chiropractor by trade. So there he used some of his chiropractic knowledge, but now he's a software guy for us. But she liked it a lot. It was something that she was able to speak to, not just based on her knowledge through physical therapy, but also through her own experiences, because that's what really caused her to step away from powerlifting in the end was her back was bothering her. She was in pain for like the last 2 years of her career, just pushing through it, doing meets. I remember one US Open, for example, we were about to leave to get on the plane, and she reached down to like put a sock in or on or something, and like I just heard screaming from the other room, and I ran in. She's lying on the bed, she could barely move. And that same couple days, we get on a plane, we fly, she goes breaks world records. You know, it's like,
what was the back issue?
It was never really like accurately or diagnosed. Like everyone she went to would tell her something different. We saw everyone. We went to Canada, saw Stu McGill. We saw specialists in Miami. You know, she talked to a lot of people online, you know, who were really well-regarded professionals, and it wasn't something that anyone could really pinpoint. But she was in extreme pain, like at any time she was lifting, and a lot of times when she wasn't lifting. So, rehabbing that and getting herself back healthy was a process that was extremely empowering for her, and I think that's why that book was important to her, because you know, she got to share all of that. You know, she really went through it and used her own knowledge and all these bits and pieces of things that people told her, whether right or wrong, you know, sort of shaped you know, the way she thought about the injury. And she talks a lot about the biopsychosocial model of it, where, you know, just the way you think about the injury affects your ability to heal and to be injury free and all these things like that. So and she did a lot of great interviews with Thor had a back injury, with Matt Frazier, who had broken his back. He had spondy, and other people. So there's really good insight in that book, just based on, you know, like her knowledge, and also just hearing what other people went through and their ability to recover and get back to sport. That book is called Back in Motion, by the way, for anyone who wants to read it.
I know Andrew's had a lot of back issues, and I know Nsima's tweaked his back a few times. I used to tweak my back a lot. I remember like just sometimes like, putting on a sock or just something, you know, something you're doing around the house. And I remember like that awful kind of feeling of like, wait a second, what was that? There was some sort of donk, like some sort of extra noise in there that shouldn't have happened, or it felt like a noise. Like it seemed like you heard a noise, but I don't even know if there's like a loud click or whatever. But I remember doing that many, many times in lifting, and more so even outside the gym. And you're like, ooh, I hope that's just something that hurts for just a couple days. I hope that's not like, because sometimes you're really fucked and you can barely stand up. And you're like, this might be 2 or 3 months worth of this shit.
Yeah. No.
Grab the door.
For sure.
Thanks,
and I think especially with like powerlifters, you're so specialized in going up and down, that when you're doing these other things, you know, like when you're doing these movements that you're not super trained in, that's where you get hurt. Like you said, it's like you're reaching for something up on the shelf that weighs 2 pounds, and you're like, oh, my shoulder. It's like that you can go in the gym and bench 500 pounds or 400 pounds or whatever. So, yeah, I think that's also maybe a problem with powerlifters. Like maybe we should do some stuff outside of squat, bench, and deadlift that makes us a little more resilient in real life.
Especially like in her case when she's traveling. Like when you're traveling, you got to try to figure out a way to move more, but you might be just not in position to where you feel like you can move around. But even on the plane, you got to figure out solutions, right?
Yeah, I love what Stan Efferding does. He just gets up every hour, no matter how long the flight, just annoys everybody. Walks his big giant self up and down the aisles.
He's wide as shit, so he must just be
just knocking everybody's arms.
He
and
doesn't
drinks.
miss though, right? He doesn't miss a meal. He doesn't miss that probably hour. He probably has his phone timer on and everything. That's dude. He's incredible.
Regimented.
Yeah, super regimented.
As far as what you mentioned, you were talking earlier as far as how hybrid came to be. Is it?
Closer.
Thanks, Zaddy. So what I want to know is, what do you think? I mean, obviously powerlifters can just go download the hybrid program so they can become better. But, you know, Andrew was reading this book recently, and I read it a while ago called Range. I don't know if you've ever read it. If you haven't, it's fucking dope. But it talks a lot about like, there's a tennis player, what's his name? Roger Federer, and a lot of like top level athletes. Part of the reason why they were able to become so great is because they had such a generalization in terms of childhood of doing different sports and different types of movements that allowed them to dominate at the top.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why Stefi's so great. But, what do you think powerlifters can be adding into what they do so that they can become better athletes?
Yeah, I think that concept in general is super important because powerlifting, especially on the untested side, there's no real season. It's like if you want to do a powerlifting meet in a month, you can do one. If you want to do it in 2 months, 3, if you want to do it every month, you can do it, right? So it's really left up to the individual coach or athlete, if you don't have a coach, to set up your own season. And people are not often really good at doing that. You see people who are just in constant preps all the time, and their bodies get worn down. And I know Stefi was for a really long time, and we talked about where that led her. So through those experiences, we learned that you need an off season for sure. There should be a large portion of your year where you're not trying to get stronger necessarily, and where you're doing where you have a more robust sort of menu of workouts that you're doing. So we started doing things that were like conditioning and more bodybuilding and the things that strongman stuff, yoke carries, and all that kind of stuff, so that when you do go back into a prep, you're better prepared. You can move slightly the wrong way and not wreck your back, or
Are you able to coach her, or does that not work out well for you guys?
Well, she's doing a lot less of the strength stuff now. So
was that time period tough when you were coaching her and she was getting world records and stuff, or?
No, we always kind of meshed well there. We both had pretty good knowledge of training. We've both been doing it for a long time. It was more like the coaching experience we had with each other was more like asking opinions. She I wouldn't write her program, but I would be like, she would ask me, do you think I should squat heavy today? And I'd say, well, what did you do yesterday? What did you do the day before? What, how heavy did you go then? How do you feel? And we kind of just work together to make decisions, for each other's training. And then actually at a certain point though, she did take over coaching for me. I just fully did everything she told me to do, because I'm stubborn. I like lifting heavy. I was doing it all the time. I would get to.
You and I have had many discussions about this.
Yeah. So I would just, everybody who's ever seen me lift sees the grinders that I put myself through. But it would get to the point.
They're unbelievable.
They're epic, because you're like, damn, that was an awesome single, and then he's going again.
It's like, he went up 30.
Damn, he went, but no, he went for a double. It's like, hold on, he's going for a triple. It's like, holy shit, dude.
Yeah. So I was doing that a lot, right? Because that's the nature of a peaking cycle. It gets heavier the farther you get through it. So I'm doing grinders in week 2. By the time I'm getting to week 12, it's pretty unbearable. And I got to a point where I just had to be real with myself and say, I am not capable of doing my own programming, because I'll just do this all the time. So it took some humility from me to let a little 120-pound chick, take over my training. But obviously she knows what she's talking about. And in that time period where she was coaching me, I had the best meets I ever had. It was the first time I squatted 700 pounds, which was something that I thought I was never going to do. Was under Stefi's coaching. First time benching over 400 in competition was the same thing. Pretty much all of my competition PRs that I have currently were, from working with her. So, I was never, she's a little more feisty than I am, so I was fine.
Yeah, a little bit.
So she has her moments where she gets frustrated. I think it was never with anything, any way that I coached her, but my challenge coaching her was always keeping her kind of even keeled. She'd miss. She's the type of lifter where she's having a bad training session, she's taking her belt off and whipping it across the gym. She would get heated like that.
Start cursing in Spanish.
Yeah. She's really, really competitive. She's her biggest critic, really tough on herself. So it was sort of just me, almost trying to be like a sports psychologist, just with no training. And she eventually did end up getting a sports psychologist and helped her a ton. So, yeah, we always meshed pretty well with
living together, lifting together, running a business together, managing all these people together. Managing this team of athletes that are on the hybrid app and everything. Does that ever? That's got to get difficult at times?
I mean, yeah, no. We just like we operate in such completely different capacities within the business that
You don't really overstep each other.
yeah, no one's ever stepping on the other person's toes or giving opinions and things that aren't their area. It's like she probably doesn't even know what I do all day long. She just knows it works. So and same. I don't have the desire to do the things that she's doing. I know for a lot of people, you get two type A people in there. They both want to be the center of attention, and they both want to be in front of the screen, and they get jealous and all that stuff. Luckily that was just something that never was an issue together. So it was just a good, we got lucky. We didn't know we were going to start a business together when we started dating like 7 years ago, or 6 years coming up. So I guess it would have been 6 years ago. But yeah, it worked.
Do you guys have any hard rules where it's like, hey, we're in the house now, we cannot talk about the business?
No. Well, only the one thing where I finally was like, hey, you can't do that anymore was she gets ideas. She's like Kramer, She's like, she gets these wild ideas, and so some of them are not good, but she has so many. She hits home runs, every once in a while, right? But she gets these ideas at all hours. She'd wake me up in the middle of the night. It'd be like 3 a.m. She'd be like, I just had this idea. I'd be like, I guess I'm starting my day now, at 3 a.m. So eventually I was like, all right, maybe write it on a notepad. We'll talk about it in the morning or something. But no, that was really the only thing. And that only happened a few times.
That's great.
Awesome, man. What you doing out here at the Arnold?
Just shaking hands, kissing babies. Yeah. We didn't do a booth this year, but I wanted us to have some sort of representation out here. Hang out, see all these people in the industry that like I haven't seen in a while because of COVID and all that stuff. So, it was nice to run into you guys today at the booth. It was like, oh no shit.
There's been no rules the whole time for you guys, right? In Florida?
Yeah, man. Florida's like the Wild West. COVID's just a myth there. So, and it's been like that I think we locked down for 2 months. And I really think that the reason why it happened the way that it happened in Florida is because people just started saying no immediately. Like they never gave the government the opportunity to really have control. So it was like they either had to say, the government had to say, oh, okay, actually it's our decision and we're going to open everything up, or they were just going to look like they had absolutely no control over people because people do whatever the hell they want there.
This is sort of on the other side of things, but you guys are two individuals in an industry that everybody's fit, everybody's well known. Both of you guys are well known. How'd you guys navigate your relationship? Because she's really well known, so she's probably getting a lot of weird shit, and same with you're probably getting a lot of weird shit too. So how do you guys navigate the trust aspect of things within that, if I can ask?
I mean, to be honest, Stefi's, I think now because her account's so big, she's just like, I don't know. It's just the frequency at which things come in. She's just not even seeing things anymore.
And you just got used to it too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I never cared much to like, I don't know, see what weird requests creepy people were giving her on social media. So that never was really a factor. With me, I never really, honestly, I just get mostly gay dudes. That's
trying to buy your underwear.
I don't know what it is. Sometimes
The beard.
Yeah, maybe. I think, but I'm not huge. I'm not like a bear. I think the term's an otter.
Yeah.
That's a thing?
Oh yeah. I'm working my way there. I'm still I forgot what one of my buddies called me. He's like, no, you're not there yet. It's like, fuck, one day. Is it annoying that in this day and age that you kind of do have to be on social media?
Yes and no. I mean, like what we were talking about earlier before we got on the podcast, how my account got hacked, and I had such mixed feelings. Like it was stressful because I was like, this is probably not good for business.
That was so weird.
But then I was also at the same time sort of like,
sick.
Yeah, maybe I don't have to do this anymore. Maybe I can this is my excuse to be like, all right, everybody else in the business, you're doing the social media thing, and I'm just chilling now.
Yeah.
But I don't know, there's definitely parts about it that I like, you know, like I never would have had probably any of the opportunities that I got in the industry or met all the cool people that I have met if it wasn't for social media. So I am super grateful for it. I think it gets a bad rap. And it's like anything, it's guns aren't evil. It's the way people use guns, right? It's the same thing with social media. So.
It's way more positive than it is negative. You know, you come to a show like this and you run into people that have had good experiences, you know, from something that you posted.
Yeah, and it's also, I think, like, social media gives you the ability to curate your own experience. So if you're having a bad time on social media, it's your fault, right? It's like banging your head against the wall and then being like, oh, man, my head hurts all the time. I don't get it. You know, it's like, well, maybe don't do the thing that's hurting your head, you know? So I think people do that with social media. They're like, oh, I hate it. I go on there and I just see everybody's highlight reels of them traveling and this. I'm like, you can just not follow those people, right? There are people who are on there talking about, you know, their struggles with depression and all those things. And if that's the experience you want, follow those people. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a mixed bag for me. I try to curate the experience on social media that I like. I try to put out the things that I'm interested in. And, you know, that's, in general, I enjoy the process.
Cool. You guys getting ready to run any competitions, or do you have something that you're thinking about competing in soon?
Well, we just had it in January, the 5th annual hybrid showdown. So that was cool. It was by far our best one yet. We put up 60 grand in prize money just from hybrid, like with no sponsors.
That's 150% more money than's ever been given out in powerlifting history, by the way.
So that was really cool. I think it was cool to make a meaningful impact in a few people's lives. Like I watched one of the posts. We had the interviews. We had commentators and we had interviews and stuff with all the people there. And the girl who won was like, I'd never seen this much money in my life. Like this is the first time I've ever seen that. Well, I'll see this in my bank account. This is more than my car's worth, you know. And that was something that, you know, well, I wasn't necessarily thinking of when we put the meet on. You know, I was like, I just want to help people make, like, I want to put up a big cash meet and attract good lifters, and it helps the sport, and that was my thought process. But then seeing how it actually impacted like the individuals is really cool. So something we want to continue to do. Maybe, and with more time, if we put up our own money and then also get a lot of sponsors to put up money, that'll be cool too. We'll be able to offer even more prize money. I would like to be able to give like top 10 at some point, a substantial, a pretty substantial amount, because right now it's like, you have some guys making a great living. Like John Hack just goes to every money meet, and comes first, and you know, he's making good money doing that. But that's not the reality for most people, as is the case with most sort of like fringe or niche sports. So
what about trying to CrossFit the powerlifting community, taking a page from the Open and having like online powerlifting? Yeah,
they actually Olympic weightlifting.
I know Duffin does a little bit of that. Yeah,
they did not at a huge scale, but or it was last year, I think. They had online nationals, and they had all these, like, we hosted a bunch of lifters in our gym. It had to be a USAW gym, and you did attempts. Everybody would switch to the person's screen, and you'd see them in their gym, and they'd do their attempt all of it online, and the next guy would go to his screen, you know, and that was really cool. Wow. I don't know how you'd go about doing that.
Are there hybrid app world records?
No, but that's something we're going to put eventually. We had leaderboards on the old software that we had, but then it just becomes like you have to, if you have 10 programs and there's thousands of days of programs, it's really tough to monitor and manage, because someone will just go in there and put, I squatted 10 million pounds. You know?
Right, but then you just invite them to your gym.
Yeah. But
say, hey, that lift was great. You should come to our gym and do it against so-and-so.
Yeah.
Do it against this other guy that lied.
We need we'd have to build some sort of algorithm that weeds out the outliers that are ridiculous, because we did have a lot of that. You know, you'd see you make someone benching 1,400 pounds. Right. You know, it's like, that's not true.
Yeah.
Where can people find out more about hybrid?
Me on Instagram mainly, just at Hayden.Bowe. Hybrid on Instagram at Hybrid Performance Method. Everything that we do through the business and the different businesses is is on there. If you want to go directly to hybridperformancemethod.com, that's got everything we do on it. Or if you're just interested in the app and the different coaching that we have, you can get to it through the main site, but the direct link is hybridstrengthcoach.com.
That's JL Holdsworth, I believe. Oh, boy. Yeah, congratulations on everything. Really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Andrew, take us on out of here.
Sure thing. Thank you, everybody, for checking out today's episode. Sincerely appreciate it. Please like today's episode. Make sure you guys comment something down below. And again, if you guys are on the iTunes, Spotify, or whatever platform you're listening to this on, head over to the YouTube channel and drop us a comment, please. And subscribe if you guys are not subscribed already. Follow the podcast at Mark Bell's Power Project on Instagram, at MB Power Project on TikTok and Twitter. My Instagram and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. And Nsima, where you at?
At Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube, and Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter.
Oh, and what did you think of the tasty pastry?
Oh, that was really good. Thank you. That was really good. Thank you for that.
Yeah, the macros are insane, right?
20 grams of protein down the old hatch, buddy.
180 calories for 20 grams of protein. It tastes incredible.
Not bad.
Like, there you go. Well, bam.
Dude, it went right to your triceps. I can see it. I'm at Mark Smelly Bell. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness never a strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.